Today's episode contains conversations surrounding mental health and suicide. Listener discretion is advised. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. For a long time, I suffered with depression and anxiety. I had tried therapy before, but struggled finding a therapist I connected with until I found BetterHelp. That's why I am so excited to share BetterHelp's mission to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. Because finding a therapist can be hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online. Remote therapy sessions, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. Click the link in description and receive 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. And by clicking that link, you support this channel. Plus, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. I was struggling for a long time, and BetterHelp was where I found my therapist, Whitney, who I still see weekly for almost 2 years now. So, if you're struggling like I was, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in description or go to betterhelp.com/alter-ego. That's betterhelp.com/alter-ego. There's no better time than now to start your mental health journey. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel. This episode is brought to you by Robert Stevens Jewelers. Thank you to our sponsors for your support on our first season of the Alter Ego podcast. Happy Veterans Day, Alter Ego. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. There's a lot going on here at the Alter Ego Studios. I like to say the Alter Ego Studios because there's 2 podcasts now that I'm producing. If you haven't checked out our sports podcast, Eye on Sports, please do it. The guys and I have so much fun. I have to say, it's probably my favorite part of the week. They come in here, they're so relaxed, they're chill, they sit down with their mics, we get going. It's just like this thing that happens as clockwork. What I'm really excited about is this month, we are getting involved with Movember. If you're not familiar with Movember, here's a little commercial to catch you up.
Eye on Sports Podcast is proudly participating in Movember's annual fundraising campaign, which encourages people to sign up at Movember.com, grow a mustache, move to commit to walking or running 60 miles, host a virtual event, or mow your own way.
Mow Your Own Way is a choose-your-own-adventure activity and allows people to pick how they want to support Movember. The new challenge could include riding your motorcycle across the country or doing 100 burpees and allows supporters to participate and not be limited by what they want to do.
All the support will change the face of men's health, raising funds and awareness for mental health and suicide prevention, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer.
The Eye on Sports Podcast team, along with Butler Eagles sports writers, have a goal to raise $1,000 for the month of Movember. The charity raises funds to deliver innovative breakthrough research and support programs that enable men to live happier, healthier, and longer lives. Committed to disrupting the status quo, millions have joined the movement, helping to fund over 1,250 projects around the world.
In addition to tackling key health issues faced by men, Movember is working to encourage men to stay healthy in all areas of their life, with a focus on men staying socially connected and becoming more open to discussing their health in significant moments in their lives.
The charity's vision is to have everlasting impact on the face of men's health. To donate or learn more, please visit Movember.com. Movember is a registered 501c3 charity. To donate to our fundraising goal, click the link in our story or bio. Help us at Alter Eagles Eye on Sports reach our goal of $1,000 towards Movember for men's health.
On behalf of myself, Eagle sports writer and host Derek Pito.
I am Eagle sports writer Brendan Howe.
And I'm Eagles sports editor Jake Murda Adams.
Thank you.
All right, so now that you've heard a little bit more, Movember, Movember.com. Type it in, go to the link. Actually, if you check our caption, there's a link in our caption where you can go directly to our fundraising page. So our goal as a team between Derek, Brendan, Jake, and myself is to raise $1,000 for this month. Now, it does trickle a little bit into a few days in December, so stay tuned. I'm just confirming exactly what that day is, if it's December 3rd or December 5th. So stay tuned for that. However, anything counts, right? Hey, I'm all for my coffee, right? You guys know Vintage is my place. I go there, triple shot, right? But maybe one day you take that coffee money, just donate to our campaign. Movember is such an amazing global organization that has brought so much awareness to men's health, to talking about your mental health and your physical health as a man, manly. Because let's face it, like, I'm not a dude, so I don't know. Girls, we're always sharing our feelings. We're always talking. I have some friends that aren't like that, but it's rare, right? However, I think that, growing up in a household with brothers, you learn that the men, they've got to be men, right? They've got to have it together. They can't cry. They've got to suck it up. They've got to be tough. And it's not that they can't still be that, but it's also important for them to recognize that it's not good to hold it all in. And I am just so honored to be a part of this. And I love that the guys jumped on board with me, that they've trusted me with this. So here's our plan. Brendan, Jake, and myself are all committing to 60 miles for the month of Movember. So the correlation with 60 is that globally, every hour, 60 men take their own lives. So that's every minute. Think about that statistic. That is, if you break that down, how many lives are being lost? And there's that mental health associated with that. So we want men to feel comfortable talking about their feelings so we can lower that number. Now, that's our goal. Derek signed up to do the mustache. Now, if you don't know about the mustache, it's you shave your face November 1st. Now, he started a few days late, but I was like, you know what? Let's do it anyway. He's going to grow a mustache, so he's going to keep his face shaved, clean shaven. That's what I wanted to say. That's what I was trying to say. Words. Words. And grow a mustache. He said his wife's not going to be happy at Thanksgiving. I was like, well, tell her I really appreciate her for letting you do this. I don't even know if letting you, but like accepting that you're doing this, right? But it's for a good cause. And I want to bring awareness to this organization to Butler. So you can be a Mo brother, you can be a Mo sister. You can sign up at any time. Go to Movember.com, Movember.com, sign up, start a campaign, join our team, whatever you want to do, talk about it, just share our stuff. Even if you're not able to fundraise, you don't think you really have the bandwidth right now to do that, that's fine. But our guest today is Andrew Still, who is a volunteer from Movember. His story is, one that I think a lot of people have. And maybe it will connect to you. Maybe it will make you feel less lost. It's what I really appreciated about Andrew is that part of his conversation around talking about his feelings was also being able to talk to his wife, right? He has a son, being able to be that example to his son. And it's important for us to be able to talk about our feelings, no matter who it's to work through those feelings, right? So we can be there for the people in our lives. We don't understand is when these hard things happen to us, whether they're from our childhood or from the past year or the last 10 years, whatever it might be, if you hold those feelings in and they fester, eventually they will come out in some way. And oftentimes my experience has been that a lot of times when, depending on how long those feelings have been bottled up, right, compartmentalized, they typically come out in anger. They can come out in depression. Now, again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor, but this has been my experience. So we want you to feel comfortable. There are so many resources on the Movember website, so check it out. Check out our link. Our goal is to raise $1,000 this month, and we just want to let you know that you're not alone. There are resources, and if you check, again, our caption here, the description of this episode, all of those links are available for you. It's just good to know that you're not alone in this world. So let's get to our episode. Before we get to this episode, I just want to again thank everyone who supported us this far. If you've never sent me an email or a message, follow us on Instagram, Alter Eagle Podcast. Send me a message there. You can also email me directly, lcrago, LCRAGO, at butlereagle.com, BUTLEREAGLE.com. I really want to hear from you. And let's get to our episode. Thanks for tuning in. Well, your mustache has grown out, or have you grown that since the first?
Yeah. I did a Halloween costume, and I didn't cheat. I'm not going to say I cheated, but I didn't shave fully, like all the way down, just because I knew I was doing this podcast, and I wanted to have something that looked
okay.
pretty solid. So yeah, I was Captain Hook for Halloween.
Oh, awesome.
I colored it all in black, and then shaved it to like a 1 the following day. And my stash is the only thing I'm blessed with facial hair wise, so it does grow pretty quickly.
So it works. You're like, I'll sign up for that. I can do that. I got one of the sports podcast guys to do it, and I haven't seen his face yet. He started late because yesterday he told me, and I was like, Derek, I told you that this had to start on the 1st. And he's like, I know. He's like, my wife's going to be so mad at me, though, for Thanksgiving because I'm just going to have a mustache. I said, well, you're either committing or you're not. I need to know. So, and the other two are going to do the 60 miles. I'm doing the 60 miles also. So
awesome. I think I was aggressive and I put 1,000 miles. So we'll see if I can do it.
Wow. So how are you planning on doing that? Yeah. Cycling,
running and cycling. Like I'll do like 3 Peloton classes a week and one's a 60-minute. So I figure that's like 65 miles a week and on the bike. And then we'll see. Maybe I'll reduce the goal to 500, but
yeah. The screen that you have for Peloton, does it give you mileage?
Yeah.
It does. Okay, cool. I have friends that have Peloton bikes. I don't have one. I could just get a regular Stages bike and teach myself a class, to be totally honest. So with a playlist or whatever, I've been wanting to get a bike, but I'm not allowed to be on a bike right now. I'm actually dealing with some back issues, and I had a car accident this summer that someone totaled my car, so that was no fun.
You mentioned like Thanksgiving and a mustache. It's pretty funny because I see my family a decent amount of time, but it's every Thanksgiving they know me as mustache. Like, and so when they see me without one, they're like, "Oh, you shave?" I'm like, "I don't have a mustache for like 11 months of the year, but you would just always see me for Christmas and Thanksgiving where I have a mustache." So
yeah. So what is the response been so far since you've started Movember? So we're Movember. I'm going to just keep saying Movember 6 because I feel like now I can't even say November anymore. But yeah, we're 6 days in. So has there been like a big response? You had one for Halloween, but anything?
Typically, no, it's just I've had a few people, like I got my hair cut this morning and the woman at the front desk asked me if I want to hang up my mustache. I mean, she was like, "Do you want to hang up your mustache? I mean, your jacket?" Like, people poke for a little bit of fun, and then it's a tough line to like toe where you don't want to make someone feel bad for making fun of you, but it's like I'm growing this mustache, raising funds for cancer, so it's like I tried. I don't know. Sometimes I just like brush it off and say and then they ask like, "Am I doing Movember?" Blah blah blah. So it's a fine line, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like the typical Movember, I usually am like a late bloomer for fundraising because usually my event is at the end of the month, but this year it's tomorrow. So we'll see if it's going to be front loaded. And then, I mean, usually it's, you wait and then Movember always does like a cash match donation. So at the end of the month, there's like MasterCard did it last year. I'm not sure who the match is going to be this year if they're doing it, but it's like somebody donates $25, they'll donate $25 like a match. There's like a certain window, so I try to encourage people to do it during that. But
I'll have to find out. I'll have to find out who that is. And I saw that you became an ambassador in 2017, and then you were a Hall of Famer this year, right? Is that this year?
I was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Because you raised $25,000. So you get this for that. You get my applause. I have a whole soundboard, so I've got all kinds of fun buttons. So I like to hit the applause button. That's exciting. What's your goal this year to raise?
I want to raise $10,000 this year, but it'll probably be closer to 5.
Okay. What's the event? You said it's tomorrow?
Yeah, so this will be the 10th annual Movember event. We used to call it the Mustachio Bashio, but that's a big, the New York City hosts something called the Bashio, so I kind of just changed the name to Movember fundraiser. We do it at Yards Brewing, and they also they brew a Movember beer every year. This is the 4th annual beer, and the funds raised from that beer go towards Movember initiatives. So yeah, tomorrow's event is at Yards from 4:30 to 7:30, and it's in conjunction, or we're partnering with the General Builders and Contractors Association of Philadelphia, the CFMA, which is the Construction Financial Management Association, and the Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention, the CIASP. So it's an event focused for construction, but also the mental health and prostate cancer, testicular cancer aspect of Movember in, construction industry is a big, they struggle with the, the macho and not being able to talk about these topics. So it's something that I partnered with a buddy of mine who's in the construction industry, and we put on this event. So
that's really cool. Yeah, I think that's a overlying theme, right? Is that we're making, or you are, and all the volunteers and the people that work with Movember and anyone else who gets involved is making talking about your feelings a manly thing, right? And you have a pretty big why from where you got started, but just a little bit about you. So you were born in Red Bank, New Jersey. You did live in Pittsburgh suburbs in Sewickley until you were about 5. And you currently you're like outside of Philadelphia in Cherry Hill.
I went to school La Salle in Philadelphia, and then lived in Philly for, I guess, 15 years, and then recently moved with my wife and son back to my hometown, Cherry Hill, actually in the same neighborhood I grew up in. So it's...
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
My parents moved, so they're not there. It's not like... Yeah. But it's good. They're still pretty close, but... No,
that's really cool. I mean, I think for me, I can relate to that because I've moved back to my hometown. And I don't know, did a lot of people ask you, I guess you weren't too far away, right? You weren't that far away, but did a lot of people ask you why you moved back? Or do you come from a town like that where everyone's like, why'd you move back here?
It was almost
I got
like
that.
I was getting asked, why do I live in Philly? Everyone, a lot of my friends did go to, they went away and then they moved back to either Cherry Hill or surrounding suburbs, but most of my best friends are in, within a 5-minute driving distance. So it's cool. It's definitely abnormal, but there's only one friend who lives kind of far. He was in California for a while, and then he recently moved to Florida. And there's another one that's in New York, but we're all pretty close now.
Yeah, very cool. And are you a CPA, insurance broker? You had both of those on here.
Yeah, so I got my CPA when I was doing public accounting, and recently switched careers to become a commercial insurance broker. So property casualty, employee benefits, and, outsourced risk management. So I still have my CPA, and I'm going to keep that active. But yeah, I was a CPA for a while and decided it was time for a change.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, a lot of people that are listening are probably wondering like how you got involved with Movember. So let's go back to, I think the first, really, I'm looking for what I wanted to say here because I'm reading your, when you were in high school, the first experience you had, would you say that was the first time you experienced like a really hard loss in your life, if you're comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, I mean, on the macho topic, I still don't cry that often. I mean, I get emotional and I feel myself, and I'm getting better at that. But there's a distinct time where, emotionally affected crying, as opposed to like being a little kid and faking crying, or like crying because you're hurt. I think my grandfather died in 2001. I was really close to him. But yeah, then when I was 16 in high school, so I think my grandfather died when I was 10, and then
So let's go back to high school when you first experienced like a pretty profound loss in your life and really started to feel grief.
Yeah, I mean, so other than when I was young and lost a grandfather, I was really close with. When I was 16, my best friend took his own life, and we were baseball teammates. Hung out every weekend. All of us were really tight knit, and none of us really knew how to, I guess, deal with that grief, deal with those emotions, and thought we're just supposed to, bottle it up. And we came together and we did have a good period of grieving, but we felt like, I mean, even looking back on it now, it's like we didn't know what to do with that emotion. We didn't know where to put it. And I think all of us are still like affected to this day. So I'd always been searching for some sort of outlet to get involved with and support, so that no one, or prevent as many people as I can from not feeling that way, as far as like bottling emotions up. And that was my first big experience with grief, and probably the biggest one of my life so far. I haven't had, knock on wood, been fortunate that way. But.
Yeah. And then moving forward, you in college was when you really got involved with Movember. But if you want to discuss that a little bit, about a friend in college who had asked you to grow a mustache when you first became involved with Movember, and what sort of brought that about.
Yeah, so I sort of fell into the Movember charity in that my buddy came to me and said, "Hey, you want to grow a mustache and raise funds for cancer?" Because his brother had testicular cancer. And I said, "Sure." My dad is blessed with a mustache, and I guess it runs in the family. I can't really grow a beard, but I've always been able to grow a pretty nice stash. So I said, sure. At that time, Movember was just prostate cancer and testicular cancer awareness and raising funds for that. So that's how I got involved. And then a couple of years later, they adopted the mental health awareness and suicide prevention arm of the Movember focus. And that really became my why for why I got back involved and stayed involved and became an ambassador. And that's really what keeps me, over the years, I've met more people that have been plagued with testicular cancer and prostate cancer, and many survivors. And unfortunately, some people who've lost their lives to prostate cancer. So it's all encompassing, but, my biggest why is that, his name was Jared, and it's just carrying that legacy forward and doing whatever I can to, like I said, make it, limit the amount or touch as many people so that they don't feel like they need to bottle their emotions, or if anything they want to talk about, or it's just a big, it's a big why for me. So I'm getting a little emotional.
No, it's not something to take lightly. I don't think that enough people feel confident, especially when it comes to, suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation. There's a lot of stigma behind that, which is kind of what I want to talk about next. So I'm sure that, when we were teenagers, right, we didn't talk about mental health. I don't ever remember that really being like a big thing. And, I lost a parent when I was 14. So thinking back now, I know that's why I'm in therapy now. And that's why I focus so much on mental health now, because there's so many things that we don't realize that are still triggers to us, or are still things that we haven't processed, or, as you said, bottled up. But there's a big push, and I don't even know if push is the word I want to use with Movember, of eliminating the stigma, whether it's behind talking about your feelings, or talking about if someone talks about, having suicidal ideation or thoughts, or even as a man getting testicular cancer or prostate cancer. It's something that we just haven't talked about enough. And that's what I think is so wonderful about this organization, is that it is coming to the forefront. And these manly men are coming out, and they're like, hey, none of us are immune to this, right? We have to talk about it. So in your experience, what have you found with, whether it's conversations or your own struggle of like eliminating the stigma? You had mentioned when we talked last week about how it's even helped with your, conversations with your wife. And I think that's really amazing to me, because that's important, when you're in a marriage or in any type of relationship, to be able to talk to your partner, husband, wife, whatever it might be. And so are you comfortable sharing any of that, or your experience with all of that?
Sure. I mean, it's a lot to unpack, and I don't want to ramble, so I'll say a few things, and feel free to, expand on it. And if I get emotional, I'll try to not cry. But
It's okay.
it's not that there's anything wrong with that. I just don't want to mess this interview up. But I just think I'm guilty of it, holding the emotions in and wanting to act as if everything's okay because I feel like I need to be the rock and I can't appear weak, or because of the societal norms of not being a manly man. But it is, I think, and I've gone through this journey of being involved in Movember. I think it is manly to talk about your emotions because, I mean, like you mentioned, my wife. It's like if I don't tell her what's wrong, I may be acting a certain way and make her feel like it's something she did or something. It could be something that I'm just in my own head, and I need to, like, hey, I need a little bit of a break, or I need help with this. And talk this through with me, or here's what I'm struggling with, and it's really bothering me. I don't want it to affect our relationship. And at the same time, it's like I always feel like I have to juggle all these plates, and I think I'm fortunate that I have the ability to multitask and do that. But at some time, I often feel overwhelmed, and it's like I've tried. You mentioned therapy. I've tried therapy a couple of times. I don't think it's for me, but what's therapeutic for me is actually just realizing that I need to talk to someone, whether that's my wife or my friends, and I continue to be involved, and I want to spread the message. Is like find someone and or encourage someone that they're free to come to you anytime, or don't be afraid to ask for help or talk to me if anything's bothering you. It's like I think that for me, confiding in people and just spreading that out there is like find someone who can be your, I don't know, support system to, if therapy is not your thing, how do you release your emotions? How do you stay sane and not do something that's going to impact the lives of everyone that cares about you? So,
Well,
sorry.
no, do not apologize. It's not an easy subject to talk about. And with what you've experienced in your life, there's a lot of people listening who have probably experienced that, whether it's recently or in the past, and have never been able to talk to anyone about it. If we think about it, I know a lot of people in my life that have things that they never talk about, they never want to talk about, they don't feel the need to talk about it. And I don't like to push, but I know how this works, right? It's, you're continuously putting pressure, you're putting something in a boiling pot essentially, and eventually the pot's going to boil over and the lid's going to come flying off. And for me, I like to just say, figure out, what works best for you. I don't ever like to push therapy on people, whether it works for me. I have a lot of other things that work for me. Working out for me that's a huge component to my mental health, is being able
to. If I don't work out, so I feel you on that.
Yes, and I think that's a lot of people have recognized that and what it does. Like, I mean, it's proven, right? The endorphins, like what happens to your body. I remember I would leave teaching like a soul cycle class and be like, and I'd have an idea to do something and I'd be like, I'm gonna, and that was what happened when I decided I was gonna, ride my bike cross country. And I was like, really, so I had to say to my friends, like, you need to tell me if this is crazy that I want to do this, because I'm feeling really like those endorphins rolling. But that is a huge component. So it's kind of finding like what your toolbox is, right? Everybody has to figure that out. And I agree with you that just talking to someone, I think for everyone in general, talking. So it doesn't have to be a therapist. You also say it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
So when you say like normalize talking about our feelings and encouraging people to check in and promote conversations, not bottle it up, and you're honest about that's something that you struggle with, I think that in itself is a strong statement, because there's a lot of people who, again, don't want to admit that they're struggling with something, right? They want to make it seem like they've got it all together. So have you, in your time with Movember, experienced people like approaching you or talking to you without giving anyone's personal information away? What have some of the like really positive experiences that I'm sure that you've also gotten therapy from too, right? Someone coming to you and saying, hey, have you had that? Have you experienced that? I imagine you have, but
There's nothing that I you can't describe how good it feels when somebody opens up to you and just like needs a hug. Or as recently as last year, I'll try to be as discreet as possible. But this woman told me that she wants to get involved in Movember because she lost her father to something that, like this horrific accident that could have been prevented, but they hadn't. They'd just been bottling up all these different things. They bubbled up, and she ended losing someone that she loved very much. And it's like, I experienced that because it's like, was it my fault? What could I have done? And no, it's not really that. It's just like normalizing talking about it and having these conversations. And when we say, the mental health piece, it ties really well with the prostate cancer and testicular cancer because, we have breast cancer awareness month. Everyone's okay talking about that. But when it comes to like, your private parts as a man and having someone examine your rear end, it's like, that's not manly, or for whatever reason, that's the I guess interpretation of that, or how it's we can't talk about that, but it's just normalizing that, and it's your health, it's all encompassing. It's taking care of you and yourself so that you can take care of your loved ones, and your loved ones can continue to love you for many more years just because you're manly enough and strong enough in your, I guess, confident enough to know that it's okay to talk about this stuff and take care of yourself. So,
well, yeah, because the statistics are, is it men typically pass away, was it like 5 years earlier than women? There's something about, hold on, I'm actually pulling out I've got this whole kit here,
there's a joke in there somewhere, which I won't. I've heard jokes, but I won't. I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Why men? It has to do with stress, and yeah, it's being not catching these diseases and cancers early enough to where they're preventable. And I've actually seen a lot of that change recently. I mean, I've met a ton of people, success stories where, hey, because of your Movember talks and getting involved in the organization and the videos you put out, I made an appointment with a proctologist and had a prostate exam, and they caught this early enough to where, I'm cured now. So it's like, yeah.
Well, that's the statistic behind testicular cancer is the most common cancer in young men, and it's very treatable, correct?
Yeah.
If you catch it early enough. So it's on average, men die 5 years earlier than women in the United States. 1 in 8 men in the U.S. will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime, and that prostate cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer in men in the United States. And when we're getting into suicide prevention, and I know that this, is sensitive when you've experienced something like that. So over 100 men each day take their own life, and that's only in the United States. Now, globally, that's why they do the 60 miles, right? Because it's 60 men. So every minute someone in the world dies from, and the way to say it is from suicide. There's
died by suicide, or takes their own life. Yeah.
Died by suicide.
I struggle with that too. I'm somewhat too forward and too loose in my verbiage, but yeah. It is insane though. One out of every minute someone is taking their own life, and that's just,
yeah,
that's not okay.
It's not, because it's, what ends up happening from that is there's a snowball effect from something like that. So if you think about all of the people who knew that one person, and especially the people that are closest to that person and how that affects them. I've had a few conversations. I have personally, and I've shared this on the podcast. Actually, I don't know if I've shared this, but I'm going to say it. So here we go. I was in an abusive relationship in college and almost swallowed a bottle of pills because of it.
Well, that is it's very brave of you to confide in me here, so I appreciate that. That's very hard to deal with. And
the suicidal ideation, that moment, I've shared that, but I don't know if I shared about the relationship. So thinking back, there was this crazy moment. I've always kind of believed that I have had a guardian angel. I know it's my dad, and if people don't believe me, it doesn't matter to me if anybody believes me, because I believe it because I've experienced it. Like I've seen him. I've had these crazy experiences, and that was one of the moments where it was like this crazy moment where this sort of energy or this voice was like, okay. I was sitting in my room, like I didn't have any windows. My roommate and I were living in this like basement apartment in this house. In college you live wherever you can. It was closest to campus. It was great, but there were no windows, so that wasn't great in the winter. But I was in my room, and I do remember the moment of like having this really intense energy and almost hearing this voice say, okay, like I had a glass in one hand and I had a bottle of pills in the other, and they were just like, put down the glass, put down the bottle of pills, like stand up and walk out of this room. It was like this, like I wasn't able to move from that position. And thinking back now, it's like I hadn't written anything down. I wasn't going to explain anything, and I hadn't even gotten that far. So it's like deep down inside, it's not what I wanted, but I just had this intense feeling of not wanting to exist because of what was going on in my life. And I had gotten to a point where I thought, well, this is it. Like no one else is ever going to be with me, and I'm never really going to be loved. And so it is an intense feeling, and it can be hard to talk about, but I think that it's important for us to change the stigma behind it, because a lot of people have their immediate, well, it's wrong and it's this and it's that. And it's like, unless you understand what it feels like to feel the intense feeling of not wanting to exist, you can't really understand why people would have the thought of it being a selfish act. And I know that can be very sensitive to say, because of course we are like, well, no, we want these people here. We want them to know that they're loved. And then that's the snowball effect I was sort of getting to, I guess. So when it comes to talking about it, we have to understand that we don't know people's experiences, right? We don't know. It's like that saying, you don't know what's happening behind closed doors, which is why it's important to have these conversations with whoever it is you need to have the conversation with. Yeah. I think that, being willing to talk about testicular cancer, like for young men especially, and getting them comfortable with talking about that is so important, because to your point, it's like your manlyhood, right? I mean, a lot of men associate, am I correct in saying that? Like it's your manlyhood. It's right. That's what makes you a man. And so I think that there's sort of that idea of like, well, if I don't have this, then am I? But it's the same for women. When we talk about breast cancer, a lot of women have said they feel that way. A woman who has to have, I met a woman who had to have it was the week before her wedding, and she was having a double mastectomy the Monday after she got married, and then having reconstructive surgery after she was doing a round of chemotherapy. She was terrified. She's like, I'm getting married. Like, I want to have children, and I'm finding out that I have breast cancer. So, hold on. Let me go back to I moved all this stuff around.
It's all good.
So annual events, whenever we talk about annual events, obviously you have your 10th annual event at Yards Brewing tomorrow in Philadelphia. I'm actually going to tell my nephew and his wife about it. They live in, how far are they from Philly actually? They're closer to DC, but they're like, I don't know. That whole area sometimes confuses me, because they're like, hey, we'll be here and here. I'm like, how are you there? How did you go there? I don't realize how close things are. So they actually live in Baltimore. Okay. So they're probably not close,
right? An hour and a half. Yeah, it's a bit of a trek for them.
Okay. And they drive a lot for work. I know, because he works in DC, and they live, where are they? I'm blanking. Anyways, it doesn't matter. So, you have this Movember for the last 4 years, which is really cool. 10th annual Movember fundraiser, annual events. So like, what other events are you involved in? Other events like throughout the year with Movember, or typically do you focus in on like this month?
So Movember does do other events throughout the year. We had our first annual Big Swing for Men's Health, which it was a golf tournament outside of Los Angeles, and that was in, I want to say, June, maybe the beginning of June, and that was great. So I participated in that as an ambassador. They actually had all of us ambassadors out there to play in this golf tournament, which was incredible. So we'll be doing that every year. I've always said that I want to do my own golf outing, but it's a huge undertaking. There's actually a guy who's very, very good, big fundraiser for Movembers. He hosts a golf tournament in New Jersey, and that's been successful. I plan to go and participate in that. There's other events. I've tried to put together a committee for, the Movember supporters in the Philadelphia area, and they host their own events. There's one of the guys, Kevin, is going to be doing an improv comedy night to raise funds for Movember. And then another one, Brandon, he's going to be he's an instructor for Rumble, the boxing classes. So they're going to be doing a Movember fundraiser there. But in the past I've done, it's typically most of the time in November or directly after. There's on this Saturday coming up is the Bashio in New York City, but yeah, Movember, you can raise funds throughout the year, and there's always opportunities to get involved. So
okay, no, that's good to know, because I think I'd said this to you and Blake when we were chatting last week, that I really want to bring that awareness here to where I am in Butler. And, for me, it just starts with one person, right? I think that's kind of how everything starts. I mean, this entire global organization started with 4 guys in Australia?
I think it was 2.
2. Wow. Okay. I mean, that's
2
even,
guys in Australia.
Yeah. And just kind of, wanting to bring awareness to, and it did start with prostate cancer, right? That was kind of where they started with the whole mustache thing. And it's funny, then I think even more so then, it was funny to grow a mustache and have a mustache and, do that. So nowadays it's a thing. I think it's in, although there's some people that would probably not agree with me. Like my boss, she's like, wait, you're going to have all the men shave their faces and grow mustaches? I'm like, yeah, if they will.
Yeah, it's funny. So, my wife loves the goatee, and then she doesn't care for the mustache, but then I'll meet some other, it's usually women who are older than me, love the mustache.
Oh, yeah.
How debonair. So it's funny.
The fans of the Knight Rider fans, maybe? Knight Rider? Am I?
Yeah.
Was it Kit? Was that the name of the car? Kit? What's his name?
Sure.
Who's
I think so. I think you're right. You're talking about David Hasselhoff, right?
Well, yeah, there was David Hasselhoff, and then there was also, who was the guy that was on Friends? He was Monica's boyfriend. Richard. He played Richard on Friends. Did you ever watch Friends?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched Friends. I don't know Richard.
The actor that played Richard. Why am I not? He's in Blue Bloods.
Nobody Google it?
He has a mustache. Why can't I remember his name? I should remember his name. He's like the mustache guy.
Oh, Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck, because that was the joke with Chandler and Joey. They wanted to grow mustaches because they thought he was so cool. He smoked cigars, and he had a mustache. And Chandler walked in one day with that little tiny, he almost looked like he had that one from the guy from Princess Bride. I'm just blanking on names here today. Anyways, I tend to do this, Andrew. I'm sorry. I just I start off on a subject. I'm like, oh, here we go.
You're good. Now I'm looking up Tom Selleck. Six steps. I knew, yeah.
Yeah, Tom Selleck. I think he's still rocking the mustache on Blue Bloods. You guys need to hit him up.
Did you ever watch South Park?
Yeah. Yes.
So one of the first episodes me and my brother used to always watch, they do crop circles, the aliens make a crop circle of Tom Selleck or of Cartman. Maybe it's Cartman, and then Cartman goes, it kind of looks like Tom Selleck.
That looks like Tom Selleck. Yeah. He has that raspy voice. Oh, I love South Park. I really do, even though it can be really, aggressive. Let's just say aggressive. I don't know. Sure. Yeah. That and The Simpsons, they will often have these episodes and then they predict things. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, I don't want to get down this conspiracy hole because it's a rabbit hole that I've explored, and we could talk for another couple hours on it. But yeah,
Yeah, that's a thing.
I've seen it. They do like they've predicted the Trump election, and
Yep.
there's like I was recently looking. There's like some mathematical formula that the dark matter particle or the God particle they predicted to pretty, but I think there's explanations behind it.
Yeah, it would be interesting to be in that writer's room, for
Matt Groening is a time traveler apparently. So
wait, who's a time traveler?
Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons, they say
Oh,
he's a time traveler because of all these predictions he's made. So
interesting. So he has a
like with the
DeLorean.
Berenstain Bears, like all that, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, the Bear. Yeah, we could just start going the Berenstain Bears. And they changed that. They changed how they spelled Berenstain Bears. That's a whole nother thing that happened. I was like, wait, what is happening? There's actually
You
books.
think they changed it, but it's the Mandela effect where, it's probably a time traveler changed the name, but they're gonna call us crazy for saying it.
Yeah, that'll still get some traction. They'll be like, that girl, now she's really starting to sound crazy. I mean, I'm like, hey, listen, whatever. I mean, I sit here, I'm one of those people that I talked to people before, like I have a rose quartz, I have like a selenite on my desk. I don't know. I'm just like,
Well, you said you believe in the guardian angel, and so do I. So,
Yeah.
I mean, just to get back to that, I'm glad you had your guardian angel there. And
yeah, me too. I think it's something that you have to be open to.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like asking, but it's crazy the times that he came to me, and it's like there were two experiences where I had that. Remember when you were a kid and you do that egg crack game, and then your friend would do this and you'd feel like you thought there was like an egg cracking and it was like chills, but it would go down through your body. So two of the experiences with my dad, one, I saw him. One, it was just like this voice said, everything's going to be okay. It was the day that he passed away. Actually, it was that night when I was going to bed. It was a wild experience. And I had that feeling in my bedroom as I was getting ready for bed. I went to plug this heater in that I had. We lived in an old farmhouse, couldn't sleep with my door open. I was a kid. I wasn't a kid. I was a teenager. But anyways, I would plug this heater in, but my dad would come in every night religiously at midnight. He'd unplug it so it wasn't plugged in all night. And I had cried, but I hadn't been like super emotional. I was like very quiet. And I opened the door and I was like, oh, I better go tell Dad. That's how we would say goodnight. And it was that moment that it hit me that he had died. And I remember shutting the door, and out loud I was like, well, what am I going to do? And at that very moment, the heater shut off. This red light came on at me, this loud buzzing noise. It had never done that. And I froze because I felt like I wasn't alone. And then I got that feeling, right? And it went down through my body. But as it went through my body, it's like I got calm. Like as it went down through my body, I got real calm. And there was a voice that was just like, everything's going to be okay. And it wasn't a man's voice or a woman's voice. It was just this voice. And I was like, okay. It was so wild. And I didn't realize then until it happened again when I lived in New York. And that was the time I saw him, that was him. And I was like, okay, all right. So there's like guardian angels are definitely a thing because, so it's good.
I agree. You probably do have to be open to it. And on that, like that same point we were talking about is like, it's hard to put into words what, or articulate what it means to like the decision that you're making will affect everyone that loves you. And it's like, if you can articulate that and people realize that they are loved and they can just be in that moment, like, and have a guardian angel telling them, let's get out of here. Like that's just being open to it and having those conversations. And I think being able to realize that, and that is, that's why we do this. So
it is why we do this. I think part of the reason why I'm not ashamed to talk about it is because my hope is that maybe someone who's having those feelings or thoughts or thinking of the action, right? They're already thinking of how will hear this and will not feel alone. Because it is, right? It's this overwhelming alone feeling. And that's the only reason why I talk about it. I don't ever talk about it for people to be like, oh, wow, I can't believe it's like, no. It's not about me. It's about other people who are still going through this, to realize that they're not alone, or anyone who's experienced it as you have. And that's something I can't speak to. So it's something that, you know, grief is one of those things where, and I say this with my experience losing my dad. Again, I've lost grandparents. I lost a cousin when I was 5 years old. My 13-year-old cousin passed away. She had heart problems. And it's like I remember going over to her house. I remember them sitting me down to tell me. And it changed the trajectory of so many people's lives after that happened, after she passed away. But I think about her all the time, right? I do. I think about her all the time. But I was 5, so I knew she was sick, and I was told, you know, she's sick and her body couldn't take care of her anymore. So she's with God now. She's with Jesus. Like, that's what I was told, right? But as I've grown older and, you know, lost grandparents and other people, but I think my dad was the most profound one for sure, because at that age, he was the person that listened to me. He was the person that actually wanted to hear what I had to say before yelling at me because I did something, you know? So at that point I thought, oh, well, that person's gone. So who can I feel comfortable enough, like, being honest with, you know, and not feeling like I'm a terrible person for making a mistake that I didn't even realize was going to be a mistake because I'm a kid and my frontal lobe's not fully developed and whatever. But it's just something that I have found by talking about it. It just allows other people, hopefully, the space to realize, like, you know what, I feel comfortable talking to someone. I feel comfortable telling this. And it can change your entire life, right? Because, yeah, I think of all the experiences I've had from that moment till now. And I'm like, wow, you know, like it's going to get better, because sometimes for me, it's easy to say it's going to get better because it has to. I cannot stay here. Like, sometimes you have to go. And that's where I went. I mean, I was so like, and then I started to almost get angry because I thought, I almost let someone else make me feel so low about myself, right? That I believed I shouldn't exist.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's making other people realize that, you know, we're all human. We're all in this spinning rock in the middle of space, and, you know, as much as life sucks sometimes, it's incredible and it's beautiful, and you, like, normalizing it, it's like we're all experiencing the same things, and social media is not real. Like, don't compare yourself to other people. We all have our own demons, and we're all dealing with our own stuff. And it's when people hear that, and it eliminates the stigma, and that's the goal. So
it really does. And I think it's really important for, you know, people to recognize, you know, you, for instance, you got involved because of a friend, and now this is something that it's part of what you do. It's part of who you are. And I think a lot of that, and you can tell me, that hopefully you've been able to heal a little bit of what you went through when you were a teenager, and come to, I don't want to speak on it because I've never experienced that, but I'm sure there's a suitcase of emotions to unpack when it comes to having someone who you're probably thinking, I'm just thinking about how I would, you know, I think I'm also thinking about my own mortality, and like the fact that I have been someone who's suffered with suicidal ideation. And that wasn't the only time I did. There was twice. There was 2 times. So when you tell people that, and the second time I got really loud because I was like, you don't understand, like, I'm not okay. And you're kicking me while I'm down, and I'm telling you that I'm not okay. And when I say not okay, this is how not okay I am. And that was actually, that was the catalyst for me moving home. So it's something that, like, now I can say, yeah, I had to take care of my mental health because I was not okay. And that's all I can say about it. So the whole it's okay to not be okay is just such a powerful statement. And sometimes when you're in that not okay place, it's not what you want to hear, or I never want to hear it happens for a reason. I don't like that. That's just me personally. For some people, maybe that works. But for me, I'm like, no, there's some really horrible things that happen in this world that frankly, I'm like, no, just can't, I can't accept that. I'm like, no, I can't accept that. I'm trying to figure out how I deal with this. So
and some people are better at it than others, and some people need people to be their protector or their person looking out for them. And I've always thought that I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I've always been I look for opportunities, or, I don't do it. I'm not searching for them, but I just do it. If, for example, when I was a kid, my mom told me this story recently. We were playing kickball or something and picking teams, and I always picked the kid who wasn't very athletic. I always pick him first, and I never thought anything of it. He was my friend, and I was just looking out for him because I think one time he didn't get picked. I felt really bad. My mom told me that this woman who was an aide would always notice that and told her how amazing I was. And I don't know, it's just people need to be helped sometimes, and that is when you mentioned have I been able to get some relief or through this Movember process. And yeah, it's that. It's just, I mean, there's still a long way to go. I still, I'm still getting bottled up thinking about it, but it's when that happened and when I was 16, it's what could I have done better? And I kind of put that on myself, as opposed to now I'm getting some clarity or some, I don't know the right word for it, but it's helping other people that need the help. And it's, yeah, it's good for me. It's therapeutic for me. But
yeah, that's good. That's good. 'Cause I imagine that it would be one of those things where you just want to grab that person and just tell them how much you care about them and how much they mean to you.
It's almost look at there's 700 people here at your funeral, all upset. This is how much you were loved. Look what you did, man.
Yeah.
We miss you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard too, because you don't want to be mad at them, but I'm sure that there was quite a bit of that. I mean, that's part of grief. So when we talk about grief, but even for men who are diagnosed with prostate cancer or testicular cancer, there's grief in that too, because there's this, okay, well, you got to find out where you're at, because every case is so different. And we talk about cancer. I had a mother in here. I did, focus on childhood cancer in September. And let me tell you, that's the first time I started crying on this podcast. And she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I shouldn't be crying right now, but you're telling me about your 11-year-old son and how amazing he was." And I'm looking at pictures of him. And we're sitting here and we're both in agreement that this is not a fair thing that happened to a little boy, so there's a lot of, it's why it's important for us all to talk about the things. You said it, you're like, everyone's going through something. Every single person is going through something. And there is that. I've seen a lot of ads recently where, if someone's driving really slow on the road and you're behind them and you're like, beeping, and you don't know the person in front of you could be a man who just left the hospital because his wife just passed away from cancer. That was the commercial. Or this woman pulls in to a grocery store in a really nice car, and she goes in and the woman's like, "Nice car?" And she's like, "It is a nice car." She goes in and she goes to pay for her food with a SNAP card, and the woman's like, "Unbelievable." Meanwhile, the car was loaned to her by a neighbor because she doesn't have a car, and she's being judged. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of that happens, I think. And it sounds to me like, as I get to know, more and more about Movember, it's like none of that matters, right? It's like none of that stuff matters. I don't care what kind of house you live in, what kind of car you live in. This is something that none of us are immune to, and we need to all be able to talk about it. And I think it's wonderful. I'm really excited to, hear about your event, and wish I was going to be near Philadelphia, but I'm not driving to Philadelphia.
If I'm ever out in Butler, Pittsburgh, I'll hit you up and we'll have to.
Yeah, there's a lot of really great breweries around here. You actually got my wheels turning as you said that, because my boss will be like, well, there's not enough time. I'm like, let's find out. Let's see what we can do.
We could use a Movember ambassador out there, so maybe that could be you.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, I have a friend who is actually a brewer at one of our restaurants here in town. He's a veteran. Crazy thing, we went to high school together, okay? We didn't know each other in high school. He was 3 years younger than me. New York City, I ran into his roommate, who I happened to know from high school, and I was like, what are you doing here? And we ended up working at the same restaurant together, and I was like, and we had seen each other in a bar and then at this restaurant. I was like, well, now you're following me around. And he made up this lie that we dated in high school and that he broke up with me right before prom. So everybody thought we had dated. And I was like, what? I was like, we never dated. I was like, I barely knew him. I was a senior. He was a sophomore. Like, what are you talking about? So it was funny. But then we all like started watching football together. So it was like Josh and his girlfriend, who's now his wife, and then David, who we call Yoda and his girlfriend, and then me. I was like always the fifth wheel. And we'd all go watch football together and hang out. And now we're like best friends. And now that I've moved back to Butler, he's a brewer. And I just, as you were talking, I was like, I should call Yoda and be like, hey, how quickly could we put an event together for this organization, Movember? Like, I need to do it this month. So that's literally what I'm going to do after I get done talking to you, because I'm the kind of person that's like, why not? We're trying to raise, between me and the sports guys, we decided yesterday we're going to try to raise $1,000 this month for Movember. So that's our goal. So
amazing. Yeah, and that's let me know, because I'd be happy to share the logistics of my event, and maybe we can get some people out to the brewery for you.
Yeah, so I'm going to see what I can do. Who knows? And maybe next year we could get he's always brewing new, and he creates the cans. Like, they have someone that creates the labels, like really cool artwork and stuff for the cans. And I'm sure you guys have done that, though. I'm sure there's been beers with like mustaches and, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We haven't yet canned anything. It's in the works. We need to do it eventually, but remember, have you ever been to like Costa Rica or one of the, there's a beer company called Pilsen.
Okay.
I think they're South American, Mexico, but they did a Movember campaign and they put a mustache on the Pilsen can for a while. That was pretty cool. But
that is cool.
Guys that do Movember beers in like out west, they do their own label, and so it's pretty cool. It's taking legs. So
yeah, I love that. I'm all for being philanthropic and raising money, and just, I mean, my goal I tell my boss this, but I'm a one-woman show over here. Like, I'm trying to do social media and editing and planning and talking to people. And then for the guys, I'm trying to, like, I wrote a script based off of this, like, Amanda, someone that sent me like this news release for Movember. So I took this and wrote a script for them and made them record something yesterday. I'm going to start putting that up. I'm like trying to like,
got a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah, I can do better. I'm hoping that maybe in the spring I can have an intern that can do my social media, because I really need that. Like, I need someone that's on the reels and doing all the trendy things. I don't do TikTok. Like, I don't have one either. But I'm just like I'm not on it enough to know what to do, and I feel like it changes like every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So
I had Vine back in the day, and Vine was cool. TikTok is not.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been really cool talking to you, and I think it's I don't know if I'm sure someone's told you this before, but it's really brave sharing your story, especially, losing someone at that age. And even now it's, grief is not linear. It's always with us, throughout our life. I think there's also this, as we both agreed that we believe in guardian angels. My hope is someday you will get to see your friend. I hope this doesn't send you over the edge. You will see him and you will get to hug him, and, yeah, I think it's really awesome that you're doing this and that sharing this with me and talking about your family too. I think that's really important. And, yeah, you're cool.
Yeah, no, I think it's very brave of you. So I commend you for doing this, sharing your story, being open and vulnerable. And, like I said, I want to reach as many people as possible, and that if it's just one person, that's enough. So that's better than none. So
Yeah. And it's so easy to get involved with Movember. Anyone can get involved. It's, I have the website. It's Movember.com. Just put an M instead of an N.
Yeah, Movember.com. You don't have to be a man. Mo Bros and
I'm a Mo sister.
Love it. And it's an incredible organization. I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm glad I found it. I stumbled into it and stayed involved. And I really thank you for having me on here. It's been awesome talking to you. You're an incredible person, and I'm honored to have spent the past hour with you. And I look forward to talking to you in the future and hopefully meeting you in person.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And it's nice talking to you. So, we'll stay in touch.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Alter Ego. Join me every Monday for a new episode. And be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Follow us on Instagram at Alter Ego Podcast. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, stay kind.